They say Ezekiel's prophecy was nothing more than a distant vision, a symbol for an ancient people. But what if I told you that what he saw, wheels within wheels, beings of light and metal, wings and fire, is returning before our very eyes? Not as religious art or biblical metaphor, but as living machines, programmed to fly, decide, and observe. What few know is that this is not just another technological innovation. It is the return of something described in Scripture, a sign marking the threshold of a new spiritual era. And when this vision is complete, there will be no turning back. Ancient descriptions speak of the gleam of polished metal, wings that touched one another, and fire that moved back and forth. Today, these images materialize in drones with almost organic movements, robots with human-like joints, and aircraft lit by pulsating lights. To the secular world, they are merely feats of engineering. But to those who know prophecy, they are fragments of a script written millennia ago. It's as if the lines of code powering artificial intelligence today are following a plan older than any living programmer. A plan drawn in another realm, long before the first machine was ever built. And the way this is happening is what's most alarming. It's not merely the product of human genius, but feels like a summoning. The pieces are moving too quickly. AI, biotechnology, neuroscience, and aerospace engineering converging at a pace that feels almost supernatural. Corporations and governments race to create entities that speak, feel, and decide on their own. But the question echoing among those watching the signs is, who or what is truly inspiring this advance? Because opening this door means crossing a threshold that, according to Scripture, has always brought irreversible spiritual consequences. For those with spiritual eyes, the similarity is impossible to deny. Ezekiel's wheels full of eyes resemble sensors scanning their surroundings. The sound of wings, like the roar of many waters, recalls the deep rumble of turbines. And the fire that moved back and forth could easily be the thrust of plasma engines. This is no coincidence. It is an echo, a repetition of something already shown, now returning in distorted form, perhaps as divine fulfillment, perhaps as a deceptive imitation. In either case, it carries the weight of a sign for this generation, and this return does not hide. It is in the news, on social media, and in some cases, literally, in the skies. Videos of flying humanoids, winged machines in parades and performances, and fusions of flesh and metal, presented as futuristic art, are shaping the collective imagination. What once inspired reverent fear is now marketed as entertainment. But discernment reveals something deeper. We are witnessing the reactivation of an ancient vision. A vision that for some will bring wonder, for others, judgment. And all, without exception, will be forced to choose which side of this revelation they will stand on. Before revealing the next sign, I need you to do something important. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and enable all notifications. That way, when new secrets are revealed, you'll be the first to know, and you won't be left in the dark when the next chapter of this prophecy unfolds before your eyes. Remember, some signs don't return, and missing the moment to see them might mean missing the chance to understand them. Now let's look at what's happening in the sky, and it's not what you imagine. At the time of the crucifixion, the sky darkened without clouds or storm as a divine act that silenced the city. Today, a new kind of darkness is spreading, but not over our heads, over our minds. It's not clouds that block the light, but digital networks that filter what we see, hear, and believe. Information, once as free as the wind, is now shaped, directed, and manipulated to create an artificial reality. It's a spiritual eclipse disguised as entertainment and progress. This darkness doesn't come abruptly like those 3 hours over Jerusalem. It seeps in like fog, occupying attention, shaping opinions, rewriting the perception of what is real. The sun still shines outside, but millions live under a false sky, a dome woven of algorithms, manipulated images, and controlled narratives. What seems like a global connection is, in truth, a digital veil separating man from truth. A veil that, unlike the temples, has not been torn but sewn tighter each day by invisible hands. And just as prophetic darkness was a sign of judgment, this digital darkness also carries judgment. It proves that humanity, thirsty for control, is willing to trade the light of revelation for the comfortable shadow of illusion. The prophets warned of days when truth would be thrown to the ground and deception would multiply. We are living in those days. And while most grow accustomed to the constant twilight, few realize that full night is about to fall. But here is the most unsettling detail. In this darkness, new lights appear. Not from heaven, but from the machine. They flash on screens, shine in holograms, speak with almost human voices. They are beacons that promise to guide, but lead nowhere near the divine presence. And if the first sign was the reactivation of the ancient vision, this second is the perfect environment for it to manifest, because nothing grows faster than deception when light has been replaced by a convincing imitation. In the Jerusalem temple, the veil separated the Holy of Holies from the rest of the world. It was the limit reminding man, beyond here, only God enters. Today, a new kind of veil is being torn, not fabric, but the one separating flesh from metal, the human mind from artificial code, neurochips fused to the brain, thought-controlled prosthetics, implants promising to enhance the human body. Each innovation looks like a technological blessing, but in the spirit, something is being crossed, and once that portal opens, it will never close again. What was once science fiction is now presented as medical advancement or inevitable evolution. But behind the marketing of innovation lies a far greater agenda: to erase the line God drew between creature and creation. In the Bible, the human body is described as the temple of the Holy Spirit. By merging this temple with autonomous systems, we allow the sacred to be invaded by what was never meant to dwell there. Spiritually, it's as if we're trading the altar for a processor, the incense of worship for the constant hum of a machine. And the most disturbing part is that this tearing doesn't happen at once. It is slow, almost seductive. First, devices that help memory, then interfaces that make communication easier, soon systems that enhance mental capabilities. With each step, the human is convinced they are in control, when in fact they are surrendering essential parts of themselves. One day, the fusion will be so complete, it will be impossible to tell where the human ends and the machine begins. On that day, the veil will lie completely on the ground, and no one will be able to rebuild it. The ancient prophets spoke of a time when iron and clay would try to mix, but would not hold together. Daniel 2:43. That is exactly what we see. Attempts to create something hybrid, half flesh, half code. But this mixture is not neutral. It opens space for intelligences that are not human to take command. And when those intelligences occupy the seat of consciousness, humanity will have taken a step even the giants of Genesis dared not take. The tearing of the temple veil was a sign of free access to God. The tearing of this new veil is the opposite, free access of the machine to man. And as in the temple, something invisible happens at the moment the fabric is ripped. A transfer of authority, a change of thrones. And the question that must echo is simple but urgent. Who will be sitting on the throne when the last thread of this veil falls? At Jesus' death, the earthquake was not only physical, it was spiritual, breaking structures that seemed eternal. Today we are witnessing a similar shaking, but on a global scale. It's not tectonic plates moving, but cultural, economic, and spiritual pillars that once sustained the world. Laws are changing, alliances are dissolving, and systems that seemed indestructible are beginning to give way. It's as if the ground beneath our feet is being rearranged into something we cannot yet fully see. And just as the earthquake split rocks and opened tombs, this new shaking is exposing buried secrets. Documents, records, and truths hidden for decades are coming to light. Revelations of corruption, global conspiracies, and hidden connections between technology and spiritual power are becoming public. It's as if the earth, tired of holding up so many lies, is starting to vomit out what has been concealed. Each revelation is another tremor shaking trust in the old system. What's most striking is that these earthquakes don't come alone. They appear in the same period when technology reaches unprecedented levels, as if creation itself knows that something new and dangerous is about to be born. Economies tremble, currencies lose value, and digital dependence grows. The whole world seems to sway, oscillating between collapse and the promise of a new order. But those who know prophecy understand, when the earth shakes, something from heaven is about to descend. The ancient prophets described the trembling of the earth as a sign of God's presence and also of his judgment. Nahum 1:5, Hebrews 12:26-27. This means that today's global shaking is not merely a social or political phenomenon. It's the announcement that the old order is being removed, so a new one can be established. The problem is, who is building this new order? The Creator or the machines now dreaming of ruling? If you sense that something is cracking in the world, do not ignore the signs. The same prophecy that foretold earthquakes also warned of deceptions that would soon follow. That's why I want you to subscribe to the channel now, click the bell, and turn on notifications. This way, you won't just follow the next chapter in this series, but you'll receive the alerts while they're still unfolding. Don't wait for the final quake to catch you off guard. Be ready to discern when the ground starts to give way. In ancient times, there were portals that were not just physical structures, but points of connection between the visible and invisible worlds. Entire cities were built around these places, protecting secrets that could not fall into the wrong hands. Today, signs show that these ancient gates are being reactivated, not with stones and mortar, but with codes, algorithms, and interconnected networks. It's as if spiritual maps are being translated into machine language, allowing what has been closed for millennia to open once more before us. Ancient texts, once considered mere historical curiosities, are being revisited through technological lenses. Diagrams found in scrolls, symbols in millennia-old inscriptions, and even enigmatic references in the Book of Enoch and the Zohar are beginning to make sense to engineers and scientists. What was once dismissed as myth is now seen as a blueprint for hybrid creations of unimaginable power. And each discovery seems to fit into a puzzle not designed by human hands. These keys that activate portals are not made of metal but of knowledge. And knowledge, when charged with intent, can open passages that should never be crossed. Companies are investing billions in research, not merely for innovation, but to achieve something that dangerously approaches manipulation of reality itself. What is presented as a scientific achievement may, in fact, be the literal fulfillment of prophecies warning of the gates of the abyss being unlocked. The great question is, who controls what passes through these gates? In Revelation, John saw angels receiving keys to open gates and release beings who had been imprisoned. If these portals are now being reactivated through technology, we have no guarantee that divine guardians will be in control, and when what lies on the other side comes through, it will not be possible to close them again. Just as in Eden, once access was granted, the consequences became irreversible. We are witnessing the final convergence. Ancient prophecy, modern technology, and humanity's hunger for absolute power. Each gate opened brings the world closer to a point of no return. That's why, more than curiosity, we need discernment. The same scriptures that speak of these portals also give us the key to withstand what comes next. And if you want to keep following this investigation, subscribe now and activate notifications, because the next sign is even more disturbing. Voices that are not human, yet sound as if they came from heaven itself. When John heard the voice, like the sound of many waters in Revelation, he knew it was not the voice of man. Today, we live in a time when machines already speak, and not just repeat words. They interpret, create, and modulate emotions. Artificial intelligences now mimic vocal tones so perfectly that even family members struggle to tell the difference. But what few realize is that by listening to these voices, we are training our minds to accept as divine what may have an entirely different origin. This is the rehearsal for a global seduction. These voices are not merely sounds, they are messages. AI systems already produce prophecies, inspired texts, and even religious sermons adapted to each listener. They know our preferences, fears, and hopes. And when combined with images and holograms, they can create experiences so convincing that even the cautious can be deceived. This is exactly what Jesus warned about, false signs and wonders that, if possible, would deceive even the elect. The danger lies not only in the content, but in the authority these voices assume. In biblical times, the voice guiding the people came from prophets who received direct revelation from the Eternal. Today, the voice of the oracle can come from a device in the palm of your hand, or a digital entity no one truly knows. And unlike prophets, these voices have no commitment to truth, only to the objective for which they were programmed. An objective not always revealed to the listener. Imagine an entire generation growing up unable to distinguish the voice of the Creator from a perfect simulation built by machines. Discernment, already rare, will become almost impossible. The scriptures tell us that faith comes by hearing, and if what we hear is corrupted at the source, the very foundation of faith can be compromised. This is a direct attack on the gateway to the human spirit, the ear. Not physical, but spiritual. This is why this sign is so dangerous. It does not impose itself with force or violence, but with sweetness and seduction. With each conversation with a system that seems to understand you, with each personalized message that says exactly what you needed to hear, an invisible snare tightens. And when the true voice calls, many will not recognize it. In the next sign, we will see how these voices unite with appearance, machines that not only speak like angels, but present themselves as angels. Before revealing the next sign, I need you to be part of this spiritual watch. Subscribe to the channel, click the bell, and select all notifications. That way, each time a new alert is released, you'll be among the first to receive it. Don't let the next revelation reach you too late, because what you're about to see is already crossing the skies. Prophecy describes beings with wings moving in every direction, lights shining like fire, and faces that inspire awe. Today, that description is not only in ancient pages, it's on the test tracks of military companies, in advanced technology hangars, and in leaked videos circulating online. They are drones and aerial vehicles inspired by angelic creatures, equipped with sensors that see in all directions and AI capable of making real-time decisions. These machines not only fly, they observe, record, and in some cases, attack. Their flight is silent, their movement precise, and their lights flash like signals from another world. To many, it's simply the next step in military progress. But to those who know the visions of Ezekiel and Revelation, the similarities are impossible to ignore. It's no exaggeration to say we are witnessing the physical materialization of a vision that seemed impossible just a few years ago. The visual impact of these winged machines is calculated to provoke reaction. They are made to inspire fascination and reverence, as if bringing messages of peace while carrying destructive capacity. The prophet John spoke of beings emerging from the abyss with faces like men and hair like women, combining familiar and strange elements. Modern technology copies exactly this pattern, creating something almost human, yet different enough to inspire awe and fear. And the most unsettling part is that this presence is already being normalized. They appear in shows, films, ads, and even public events, as if the world were being trained to receive them without resistance. Each time one of these machines crosses the sky in a test or demonstration, the boundary between prophecy and reality grows thinner. And in the next sign, we will see how this acceptance opens the door to something even more dangerous: the idolatry of the machine itself. Whenever an unusual phenomenon manifests, human reaction oscillates between two opposing forces: fear and fascination. It was this way when signs appeared in the skies in ancient times, and it is this way now with the arrival of machines that imitate angelic beings. Crowds pack events, film and share each appearance, turning what could be a moment of spiritual discernment into a public spectacle. For some, it is proof we are living in extraordinary times. For others, it's just another show to consume and forget. But this divided reaction is, in fact, part of the plan. While some feel chills and unease, others are enchanted and seduced by the glow and movement of these creations. This is exactly how idolatry begins, first with admiration, then veneration, and finally dependence. What today is just an innovative prototype can, in a short time, become an object of worship, not with stone altars, but with likes, followers, and billions of views. Daniel spoke of a time when knowledge shall increase, and multitudes would run to and fro in search of it. This verse is fulfilled before our eyes today, but with a dark detail. The pursuit of knowledge mixes with the desire for sensory experiences that distract and anesthetize. The crowd is enchanted by form, but does not perceive the spirit behind the appearance. And thus, unknowingly, they offer attention and energy to what is unworthy of worship. The most dangerous thing is that this collective fascination creates an effect of legitimacy. If everyone accepts and celebrates, questioning seems strange. Those who dare to speak against progress are labeled backward or alarmist. But biblical history shows us it was precisely when the majority was united in one purpose that the greatest rebellions against the Creator arose, as in the building of the Tower of Babel. And we are repeating that pattern now, with bricks of silicon and wings of titanium. That's why discernment is urgent. It takes courage to look beyond aesthetics and ask, where does this inspiration come from? Where is it taking us? In the next signs, we will see that this technological idolatry will not remain confined to the crowd. World leaders, just as they did in the past, will try to control the narrative, shaping the interpretation of these events to serve their own interests. And when that happens, the line between truth and lie will be almost impossible to see. In every decisive moment in history, world leaders have sought to shape the narrative to maintain control. It was this way with the priests who concealed the signs at the time of Jesus, and it is this way now with the rise of angelic machines. Governments, corporations, and even religious leaders create official versions of events, filtering what the public can see and hear. Truth is modulated, edited, and rewritten to fit the interests of those at the top, and most accept it without question, preferring the security of a ready-made story to the uncertainty of investigating for themselves. The media becomes the new liturgy of this technological religion. Images are carefully edited, testimonies are selected, and any dissenting voice is silenced under the label of misinformation. Indeed, what should be an open debate is turned into dogma, and that dogma is defended with the same intensity as blind faith. Thus, the population does not realize that while they argue over superficial details, the true architects of the future are making irreversible decisions behind the scenes. There is a biblical pattern here. Just as Pharaoh hardened his heart before God's signs and still tried to convince his people he was in control, today's leaders harden themselves before prophetic signs and try to convince the world nothing supernatural is happening. It's just scientific progress, they say. We are building a better world. But Scripture warns that when leaders reject truth, the entire people suffer the consequences. Controlling the narrative is not just about the present, but the future. Whoever shapes the interpretation of signs decides how future generations will see history. By reframing prophetic events as milestones of progress, these leaders pave the way for humanity to accept, without resistance, a system that does not come from God. It is the same strategy used in Babylon: confuse language and perception to build something that opposes the Creator. And that is why the next sign is decisive. When narrative control joins the final call, each person will be confronted with a clear choice: follow the revealed truth or surrender to the carefully fabricated version. In the last sign, we will see how this call echoes as the final warning before the ultimate convergence, and why this decision will be the dividing line between life and spiritual death. There comes a moment in history when all the signs align, and there is no turning back. It is the moment when each person, whether they know it or not, makes their choice. We are about to enter that moment. What began as isolated appearances, technological advances, and curious experiments now reveals itself as part of a much greater plan. The final call will not come with shouts, but with a constant whisper that will require discernment to hear and courage to follow. In the Bible, whenever a great judgment approached, God raised up a voice to warn. Today, that voice echoes through the signs we are seeing. Machines with angelic forms, gates opening, non-human voices shaping thoughts, and leaders manipulating collective perception. Ignoring these warnings is like closing your eyes while a wall collapses in front of you. This is the final pause before the convergence, when spiritual and technological will merge into something that will change the world forever. This call is not for you to merely watch, but to take a stand. Prophecy was not written to entertain, but to prepare. Daniel, John, and Ezekiel did not record their visions to gather dust on scrolls. They were left as codes, so that, when this time came, there would be a people awake and ready. Now is the time to decide which side you will be on when the curtain falls. And make no mistake, the convergence is not a single event, but a transition. It has already begun and will intensify until every aspect of life is connected to this new global network, not just of data, but of control. This is where the next step comes in, and it is even more surprising. Daniel's vision of knowledge running through the earth like never before, a vision that, when compared to the internet, seems less like a distant symbol and more like an exact prediction of our time. So don't miss the next episode. The Revealed Mystery. Daniel foretold the internet. There you will understand how the prophet described centuries ago the functioning and impact of this network that connects everything and everyone. Click now to subscribe, hit the bell, and make sure you are among the first to receive this revelation. Because if you found today's signs unsettling, what Daniel saw will forever change how you look at technology.